Hey everyone, this is George Soto and you're watching Startups Unedited. Hey everyone, this is George Soto and you're watching Startups Unedited. Today I'm with Craig Rosenberg, who's basically like my mentor. Craig, you know, like when I was coming up, which I still am, and you're much taller than me, you probably will always be much taller than me, I literally wanted to be you. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. What a compliment. I do remember when we first met. I was at a sales hacker conference, right? And you were at the front desk, and I didn't really know. I was doing the thing where you wander in by yourself into a conference. So I was kind of. I mean, I knew I was speaking, but I was, I didn't know what to do. I was just kind of walking in, and then you were ecstatic to meet me, and that made me feel really good. So I mean, I appreciate that, but you're much taller than me in stature, and that's what matters. So.
Well, then we met again, or I guess reunited in Atlanta at it's the Sales Loft event. The first one was it Rainmaker that they did, and it was the dinner they did, and I just said, man, it affirmed that I needed to be you. So kudos to you, Funaholic. Real quick, if you don't mind, just telling the audience a little bit about your professional background. Like, no joke, everyone, like you're literally, one of the most influential, leaders. I hate to say thought leaders because I think it's like, I almost think like it's almost not even really providing a full context because there's really a lot of expertise there and experience. If you don't mind just telling the audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. So thanks, George. I appreciate it. I love I mean, you asked me and I said, yeah, I'm doing it. Let's get on, man. And I love that we're talking from Miami, and I've enjoyed our relationship since we've reunited in Atlanta. Thanks for reminding me on that. So, I have a background in sales and marketing. I spent 5.5, 6 years at a boutique consulting firm in the Valley called Sales Ramp that many people may not know about who are in the young millennial generation. But the guy there who ran it is a guy named Stu Silverman, who he's a legend in the Valley for building inside sales teams. He built the first teams at Sun, Cisco, I mean, you name it. And I worked for him there and helped build sales and sales development teams in the Valley. And I did it in 2001 to 2005.5, the worst time to sell anything in tech. I mean, it was nuts. So that's the best time to learn, because right now, well, we'll see what happens right now. But over the last couple of years, look, I'm not going to say it's been easy to sell, but it's definitely been easier to sell. Then I spent 5.5 years as the VP of marketing for a B2B media company, and had a big marketing team delivering scale. I mean, demand gen at scale, like 60 to 100,000 digitally developed leads per month to our clients like SAP and Microsoft and you name it. And so I've got that background across the funnel, from top of the funnel through close. And that's what I bring to my new company, which is Topo. It's a research advisory consulting firm. We're focused on studying high growth companies and taking those insights and providing them to our clients in either an advisory fashion or in a consulting fashion. And then been around for over 2 years, and I would say we've done a pretty good job of making a name for ourselves. I had a lot of fun in the meantime.
Well, absolutely. I'm an attendee at I would say most of your events. I absolutely love them. One of the things that I've been able to identify too, and this I think is reflected in the events and the services that you guys provide over at Topo. I'm not getting paid for this, folks. I just actually really love the organization and I think they're doing great stuff. Is that you really have been able to kind of hone in on the different sort of, functions of an entire revenue chain, everything from the demand gen, top of the funnel stuff. We were just at an event of yours, a couple of weeks ago, right? Was it 2 weeks ago or so, on demand gen? And what I loved about it was, it was demand gen and the marketing function, but it was really kind of rolled up into this overall account-based, sales and marketing, movement here, which, is not, as we all know, is not new. But I think the data and the tools that are available today are new.
Yeah.
what would you say if I'm a leader of an organization, I'm a CEO that's, company starting to show signs of life and scale and promise. Now I raised a little money. I need to now start to scale this revenue thing. What are the sort of like components or first sort of tasks that I should be focused on when thinking about, hey, there's this revenue chain that's marketing, sales, customer success, etc.
Yeah. So that was a great event we were at the other day. I had fun. I think you did too. Well, look, that's the perspective we've had, right? So from the get-go is that the real high growth machines are these seamless, predictable, efficient. Well, seamless is probably not the right word because there's always going to be friction, but highly efficient, highly predictable, scalable, revenue chains. And that starts at the top with the brand, actually. I think we can talk about that a little bit because I definitely think me and you aren't the guys who used to talk about brand, but I think we need to now, right? Because guys like me and you are emailing the living crap out of everyone, right? Yeah. We have to talk about how the brand creates that large sucking sound to demand generation, to sales development, to sales, to CS, to account management, including cross-sell, upsell. And we've always thought that, but, what you brought up is really important, which is, one thing we have been big on for the last 5 months has been what we call account-based everything. Because everyone's talking about account-based marketing, or some people are trying to trickle in account-based sales development or account-based sales or throw account-based on anything. And it's okay. Like that wasn't meant to be sarcastic, but it's confusing, right? But we believe that it's the same thing we brought to the table before, that there's no such thing as account-based silo. Nobody wins if that's the case. If you are going to make a decision on the target market you are going to sell to, then everything you do has to be aligned to that target market. So you asked me about a startup person. Well, you know what the biggest thing is? You can talk to guys like me, you can read blogs, whatever, but the decision you make on how you go to market and how you set everything up will be defined by your ideal customer profile. Who it is that you want to sell to and who is most likely to buy your product. And you make all your decisions after that. So let me give you an example of a bad one that we see startup people make all the time. They say, well, we're going to have an inside sales team. Now, look, I'm an inside sales fan. I love it. But do we know that? Or are you doing it because Salesforce did it? You got to make the decision based on who the buyer is and how they want to buy. That's a classic decision that's made in a vacuum based on what other companies did versus what your buyer wants. Or you talked about demand generation. It's like, well, you could do Google AdWords, but what if your target market doesn't do Google AdWords? Then, that would say, well, we have to go outbound or we have to do whatever. So those are examples of things that everything ties back to the ideal customer profile. But then if we can all work together against that ideal customer profile, that's when things start to get really interesting, right? So, the big topic I thought was really interesting was Sydney Sloan, just talking about how, like, when she rolled out her marketing plan, I mean, you couldn't even tell what was marketing. Right? She had like QBRs with clients in there. It was brilliant, right? And that was the idea, is that she said, well, look, we sell to this target market. Remember, she had this nice triangle. She said, these are the people we sell to. And then she said, and here's how we market to them. Here's how sales development will talk to them. Here's how sales will sell to him and how we will help sales sell to them. These are the activities we'll make to make sure they're a successful customer. And here's what we do going forward to go, drive growth. It's that's kind of the big thing I tell startup founders is, like, you should talk to us. You should see all the ideas. But step one is to define who you want to sell to, because most of your decisions will come from that. And I think if, that sounds simple, it's not, right? As you know, a lot of companies spend a lot of time trying to figure out who they sell to. And when you're young, you're wrong. But like you brought up, sort of Series B starting to take off, you should know enough about your product market fit at that point to feel like you're quote unquote taking off. That would tell you these are the companies that we sell to, and now let's go figure out how we go big or go home against those companies. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a quick question here before you let me go, but you see organizations or CEOs of companies, founders, etc., raise money and then hire, a sales leader, um, and then decide them or actually ask them to uh, generate revenue or hit a goal in a quarter or so, right? I see a lot of that stuff, or 2 quarters. They just have kind of a misunderstanding, or there's a misalignment. And a lot of the time what I find is like the founders have actually no clue what it even looks like to sell the thing. There's never been any historical data to look at, so at the same time, sometimes these founders get into a position where they're trying to raise more money, or they had just raised money based on some expectations, and now they got to try to figure out how to hit it. How much time would you give a CEO or a founder how much time do you think it takes to be able to actually develop some predictable data to look back to? Is it 6 months? Should you give the sales leader 6 months, a year? What would you say is kind of at least a good understanding of that timing?
Yeah. So, well, I think, by the way, I would say mistake number one is to hire the sales leader. That poor man or woman is in the odds of them making it out of this alive is less than 5%. Because the key, remember, salespeople, there's so many factors that make them successful. One is product market fit, right? And as you said, who knows how long it takes, right? I mean, you've got companies that take off from the get-go, right? Or you have a company like Procore, which is like the fastest growing SaaS company in the world that nobody knows about. They've been around for like 12 years, right? So like it takes, once you hit that, then, you could bring salespeople on. But here's my main point. You got, I'll give you a quote from John Miller, which is, his famous quote at Marketo is, "We wrote our first blog post before we wrote our first line of code." And, that's, look, I'm not just saying it's about content, but what I will say is that you don't really know anything, and a salesperson's not really going to be successful until you're ready to talk to lots of customers. And that means that the first thing, you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set goals against meetings. You want to set goal, you're going to want to, the growth hacker thing, which I make fun of all the time, but not to poo-poo them, but you got to do it. You got to go and see, do people want to read about this stuff? Do people want to download stuff about this? Do people want to take meetings on this topic? All those other factors that come before sales are just as important. So it doesn't mean you shouldn't hire a sales leader, but like you really can't judge them until everything gets aligned across the way. And so that can sometimes take a year. They don't get a year, but I would rather they would. It just depends on where you are. If the demand machine is humming and you're going to give we understand enough about who we should sell to, and you can deliver those meetings to sales and they can have as many conversations as possible, then yeah, let's put their feet to the fire and let's go for it. They'll take that. But if it's just like, hey, I just hired a sales guy, we have this product, we got nothing else, they're going to fail, and it's not fair to them, So I think it's a complicated question. I'm not sure it's time. I think there's a lot of factors that go along with it.
Well, thank you so much, Craig Rosenberg, my hero. I hope to see you soon in San Francisco. I'll be back from Miami in about a week, so maybe I can, coerce you to let me to come to one of your fantastic events or conferences.
Don't you mean, when are you coming to Miami, Craig? That's what I thought you were going to say.
Well, why don't we do like Topo Miami?
Oh, I can't. The Topo Miami, you don't even want to know, man. That's going to be off the hook. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, it's my pleasure. I look forward to seeing you when you're back in town.
Absolutely. And Craig, real quick, if folks want to actually follow you on Twitter or hit you up on social media, what's your Twitter handle and what are the best channels to reach you?
So the Twitter handle is Funnelholic, Funnelholic, all one word. And that's a pretty good way to reach me. I mean, I don't check it as much as people think, but I definitely do, right? There's a lot of action there. Not just you. There's a lot of action of people reaching out to me there. But you can also go to topohq.com, and there's buttons there to reach out. We're pretty good about getting back to people. So I'm happy to engage however you want to engage. But if you want to follow me, certainly Twitter's the way to do it, at Funnelholic.
And if I'm interested in potentially hiring Topo to do some consulting, what's kind of your ideal customer profile?
Someone who's got multi-million dollars to spend with their consultant. No, B2B, primarily B2B, not necessarily tech, although we do have a pretty big beachhead in SaaS. It's hard on like sort of growth of company. Man, we've seen it across the board, but I'd say that, you would, at a minimum, you'd want to have product market fit to really gain the value from us. And then, everyone else above that, those guys, they're all good. We do a lot of different stuff, and we have clients from the biggest of the world to the middle to the bottom, and we're happy to talk to you about it. So just come to topohq.com and let me know, or reach out on Twitter.
Cool. Greg, have a great day. I'll see you shortly.
All right, man.
All right, take care.